There are places in this world where the past refuses to stay buried, where something ancient and malevolent still lingers, waiting in the darkness. Tonight, we're traveling to a small town in Tennessee to investigate what has been called America's greatest ghost story. But this isn't just history. People are still experiencing the terror today. Visitors to the Bell Witch Cave report unexplained phenomena, voices in the darkness, invisible hands grabbing them, an overwhelming sense of dread that follows them home. This is the story of the Bell Witch, a haunting so terrifying that it attracted the attention of a future president, and so powerful that it claimed a man's life. And 200 years later, it may not be over. To understand what's happening today, we need to go back to 1817. The Bell family, led by patriarch John Bell, were prosperous farmers living on the Red River in Robertson County, Tennessee. They were respected members of their community, deeply religious, and by all accounts, completely ordinary. Until the night, everything changed. It started with sounds, knocking on the walls, scratching, the sound of chains dragging across the floor. John Bell thought it was rats, but when they searched, they found nothing. The sounds grew louder, more aggressive. Then came the physical attacks. The Bell children, especially young Betsy Bell, were tormented by an invisible force. Their hair was pulled. They were slapped, pinched, and scratched by hands they couldn't see. The family tried to keep it quiet, but word spread. Neighbors came to witness the phenomenon. What they saw terrified them. And then, the entity found its voice. At first, it was barely a whisper, but it grew stronger, more confident. It called itself Kate, and it seemed to know everything about the Bell family. Their secrets, their fears, their deepest thoughts. It would mock them, sing crude songs, and make threats. But Kate wasn't just targeting the family. She interacted with visitors, neighbors, even slaves on the property. She could recite sermons given miles away, word for word. She demonstrated knowledge that should have been impossible. The question that haunts investigators to this day is, what was this entity? Was it a poltergeist? A demon? The spirit of a disturbed grave? Or something else entirely? The entity itself gave conflicting answers, claiming at different times to be a disturbed spirit seeking a lost tooth or an ancient being from everywhere and nowhere. The haunting became so famous that it reached the ears of General Andrew Jackson, a war hero and future president of the United States. Jackson owned property nearby and decided to investigate personally. He gathered a group of men, including a self-proclaimed witch layer, and set out for the Bell farm. But as they approached the property, their wagons suddenly stopped. The wheels wouldn't turn. The horses strained, the men pushed, but it was as if the wagon was held by an invisible hand. Jackson, a man who had faced down armies, is reported to have said, "By the eternal boys, it is the witch." A voice then echoed through the air. "All right, General, let the wagon move on. I will see you tonight." The wagon immediately began to move. That night at the Bell farm, the witch hunter's gun mysteriously wouldn't fire, and he was tormented by the entity, fleeing in terror. Even Andrew Jackson, one of the toughest men in America, left the next morning, shaken by what he had witnessed. The entity's hatred seemed focused on one person, John Bell. Kate tormented him relentlessly, vowing to kill him. In December 1820, after years of supernatural assault, John Bell fell gravely ill. One morning, his son found a strange vial in the medicine cabinet that hadn't been there before. It contained a dark, smoky liquid. The witch's voice filled the room, gloating. "I gave old Jack a big dose last night, which fixed him." Suspicious, the family tested the liquid on a cat. The animal died almost instantly. They threw the vial into the fireplace, and it erupted in an unnatural blue flame. John Bell died the next day, December 20th, 1820. At his funeral, the entity's voice was heard singing and laughing, a final act of desecration. To this day, this remains one of the only documented cases in American history where a spirit is believed to have directly caused a death. 200 years have passed, but the Bell Witch may not be gone. The Bell Witch Cave in Adams, Tennessee has become a destination for those brave enough to seek out the paranormal, and the reports are chilling. Visitors describe feeling an overwhelming sense of dread as they approach the cave. Some report being touched by invisible hands. Others hear whispers in the darkness or see shadow figures moving in the corners of their vision. Electronic equipment malfunctions. Cameras fail. Batteries drain instantly. Some visitors have reported feeling physically ill, experiencing the same symptoms the Bell family described. difficulty breathing, a crushing weight on their chest, and an inexplicable terror. Modern paranormal investigators have captured unexplained audio phenomena, temperature drops of up to 20 degrees in seconds, and electromagnetic anomalies that defy explanation. Some believe the entity never truly left, that it's been waiting, dormant, in the cave and the surrounding woods. So, what was the Bell Witch? Theories abound. Some believe it was the spirit of Kate Batts, a neighbor who had a dispute with John Bell over a slave transaction. She was known in the community for her strange behavior, and some thought she practiced witchcraft. But Kate Batts outlived John Bell by decades, and there's no concrete evidence linking her to the haunting. Others point to the numerous Native American burial mounds in the area. Perhaps the Bell family disturbed a sacred site, awakening something that should have remained buried. Skeptics argue it was mass hysteria or an elaborate hoax perpetrated by the Bell family themselves. But how do you explain the hundreds of witnesses, the involvement of Andrew Jackson, the detailed historical records, the ongoing phenomena reported to this day? The truth is, we may never know. And perhaps that's what makes it so terrifying. The Bell Witch haunting stands as one of the most documented and terrifying cases in American paranormal history. It's a story that has survived 2 centuries, not because it's a good campfire tale, but because people are still experiencing it. If you visit the Bell Witch Cave today, you'll see the warning signs, you'll hear the stories from shaken visitors, and you might just experience something yourself. Something that will make you question everything you thought you knew about the world. Because in that dark cave, in those Tennessee woods, something waits. Something that has been there for 200 years. Something that knows your name. And if you're unlucky enough to catch its attention, it might just follow you home. The Bell Witch is not just history, it's a warning. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed. Some places should never be disturbed. And some evils are eternal.